A 2001 Catalina 42 sells at a Fort Lauderdale brokerage for $92,000. The buyer has done his research. 11 YouTube videos watched across 6 weeks. 3 cruising forums combed for consensus. A spreadsheet tracking every boat that appeared on at least 2 separate best blue water cruiser lists. The Catalina appeared on 9 of the 11. The pre-purchase survey takes 4 hours. The surveyor taps the deck, checks engine hours, notes surface blistering below the waterline, and flags nothing structural. The buyer signs. 3 weeks after launch, the deck around the port chainplate feels soft underfoot. A second surveyor arrives with a moisture meter and a tap hammer and no interest in whether anything closes. He spends 2 hours below and 3 hours on deck. The balsa core beneath 4 linear feet of the port deck is not damp. It is saturated, the wood so far gone, the drill bit comes out black. The repair estimate is $14,000. His insurance company responds by email. Water intrusion from prior ownership and pre-existing manufacturer defects are explicitly excluded from his policy. The $14,000 is his. He calls the YouTube channel that recommended the Catalina 42 as a proven blue water cruiser. The channel does not have a phone number. The guide ecosystem, the channels, the listicles, the ranking videos with millions of collective views, has been recommending the same 7 boats for 15 years without once showing what a qualified marine surveyor finds on them. This video shows you what the surveyor finds. Every boat named here carries a documented structural failure mode, a sourced dollar figure, and an institutional record the guide never disclosed. The arithmetic at the end will show you that a guide recommended $100,000 production sailboat costs approximately $180,000 over 5 years. The guide told you $100,000. The ledger says something else entirely. The YouTube guide opens with a drone shot. Turquoise water somewhere south of Martinique. A sloop reaching under full canvas, the kind of light that only exists in edited footage. The narrator's voice is warm and unhurried. He has been sailing for 20 years, and the Catalina 42 appears first in his countdown. Spacious cockpit, teak accents, a dedicated navigation station below. He calls it a proven blue water cruiser, and the phrase sounds authoritative because he delivers it with complete conviction. The Beneteau Oceanis arrives second. Charter proven, he says, as though 1,500 hours of hard professional use by rotating paying customers is a quality credential rather than a wear indicator. The Hunter 40 comes third, described as an affordable gateway to offshore sailing, which is the kind of sentence that is technically accurate and practically dangerous in the same breath. The dream holds for the first 90 seconds of every guide in this genre. What the dream does not show is a moisture meter reading. The guide has never commissioned a haul-out, never pulled a keel bolt, never removed a chain plate to examine what years of water running through a leaking deck fitting has done to the structural wood behind it. What a marine surveyor in Fort Lauderdale or Annapolis or Palma de Mallorca finds when he arrives with calibrated instruments and no financial stake in whether the sail closes is the part of the story the drone shot cannot reach. That gap between the drone shot and the moisture meter reading is not accidental. It is structural to the genre. Practical Sailor, 50 years of independent boat testing, and the most credible publication in the niche, published a finding the sailing community has not widely absorbed. Water intrusion into core decking likely causes more boat damage every year than sinkings, groundings, and fires combined. Every Catalina, Beneteau, Hunter, Jeanneau, and Bavaria on the standard guide list uses cored decking, typically end-grain balsa sandwiched between 2 fiberglass skins. The 10% rule is the marine industry's own benchmark. Budget 10% of a boat's value annually for maintenance and operational costs. Bloomberg cited the figure, and Bankrate confirmed it. On an $80,000 boat, that is $8,000 per year, before the structural discoveries that a proper pre-purchase survey would have flagged. The worst window for osmotic blistering in American production sailboat history runs from 1979 to 1983. During those years, builders reformulated their resins without understanding the long-term consequences. Boats built in that window can develop true osmotic blistering, a condition that cannot be permanently repaired, only managed. The peak production years for many of the most recommended used sailboats land directly inside that window. As of December 2024, 760 catamarans between 40 and 50 feet, all under 10 years old, were listed for sale globally. In the same year, 160 of them sold. That is a 5-to-1 supply-to-demand ratio in the catamaran segment on boats whose asking prices remain 25 to 40% above their 2019 equivalents. The guide recommending the Lagoon 380 does not have this data. The first boat on every guide is the Catalina 36, 38, or 42, the most widely available production cruiser in North America, accessible at $40,000 to $100,000 depending on vintage and condition. David Pascoe, a marine surveyor whose structural failure documentation spans 3 decades of published analysis, has established that fiberglass laminate strength in production boats varies by plus or minus 33%, even across hulls built to the same schedule in the same model year. This is why one 1987 Catalina 36 sails to the Azores without incident, and the next, built in the same factory, the same season, develops the Catalina Smile, the keel-to-hull joint separating under the cyclical load of ocean swells. There are documented cases of boats lost to this failure mode. A 1985 Catalina 36 sold at a New England marina presented at survey with 400 to 500 osmotic blisters below the waterline, including 12 measuring 2 inches in diameter. The recommended remediation was a full hull peel, a drying period measured in months, and an epoxy barrier coat rebuild. The cost ran the length of the purchase price a second time. A 1992 42-foot Catalina was the subject of the Pierce versus Catalina lawsuit in the 1990s, with the court establishing repair estimates to return the hull to like-new condition exceeding $10,000 for hull blistering alone in 1990s dollars. The second boat is the Hunter 40 or 410. Pascoe's structural survey work documents that a Hunter 60 experienced total interior, liner disbonding and failure, and that smaller Hunter models were widely known for the same problem. The interior liner is the molded fiberglass component that lines the cabin. It is also the component that conceals all internal structural members from a surveyor's inspection. When a liner fails, the surveyor never saw what was behind it. Hunter 40 models produced from 1985 to 1990 carry iron keels, not lead. Iron keels develop surface rust visible as weeping at the keel to hull joint, require grinding at every haul out, and accelerate corrosion, unlike lead keels. The stock direct current wiring is untinned copper, the material that corrodes in marine environments rather than the tinned copper that resists it. The holding tank integrated into the rear section of Hunter 40s from 1985 to 1988 is a fiberglass lid glassed over a void between 2 structural stringers near the chart table. In heavy weather, hull flex breaks the tabbing and the bilge fills with sewage. Documented owners describe addressing this repair cycle every 3 years. One extended blue water sailor who has logged offshore miles on production cruises is unambiguous on what preparing a Hunter for serious offshore use actually requires. Replace everything that is more than 15 years old, budget $10,000 in additional equipment, and accept that the work will be done by the owner rather than a boatyard if the numbers are to stay rational. The third boat is the Beneteau Oceanis. The hull-to-deck joint on the Oceanis uses a sealant that has been documented as failing across the full production range, from the 411 to the 511 and beyond. When the sealant fails, water migrates from the deck seam into the interior of the boat continuously. In January 2024, Travelopia, parent company of Sunsail and the Moorings, operators of the world's largest bareboat charter fleet, announced an exclusive partnership with Dufour Yachts for all future monohull acquisitions. The Beneteau and Jeanneau models that have composed the bulk of both charter fleets for 20 years are now being systematically retired from active service on a structured schedule. The Moorings brokerage website lists more than 100 of these EX charter boats for sale at any given time, positioned alongside privately owned vessels with no disclosure of the fleet origin or the hours accumulated during charter service. When a guide in 2025 or 2026 recommends the Beneteau Oceanis as a great used buy, there is a meaningful probability that the specific boat a viewer finds and purchases carries 1,500 charter hours and was professionally retired because its useful service life in the fleet was complete. The fourth boat is the Jeanneau Sun Odyssey. The Jeanneau shares Beneteau's production context, charter fleet deployment, and pipeline into the used market through the same moorings retirement program. During the 2021 Atlantic Rally for Cruisers, a Jeanneau Sun Odyssey 509 had its spinnaker pole tang break into 3 pieces mid-passage. A Beneteau Oceanis 41 on the same rally broke a spreader bolt under load. A Beneteau Oceanis 58 lost its steering cable to chafe. The Atlantic crossing season produces these failure events in production coastal cruisers as a matter of course, not as outliers in an otherwise clean record. The fifth boat is the Bavaria Cruiser, Bavaria's CE category. A ocean rating has been questioned at length by offshore surveyors and professional captains who note that CE certification represents a minimum regulatory threshold driven by insurance convention, not a structural standard comparable to Lloyd's Register or American Bureau of Shipping classification. On the 2021 ARC, a Bavaria 47 developed a rudder shaft leak mid-passage. The crew applied epoxy to the shaft seal and continued on the wind vane rudder for the remainder of the crossing. The sixth boat is the Lagoon 380 or 42. At the moment this research was compiled, 760 catamarans between 40 and 50 feet and under 10 years old were listed for sale globally. In all of 2024, 160 sold. The 28 Lagoon 42s that changed hands in 2024 came from a pool of 160 listed, a listing-to-sale ratio that has never resolved because supply is not normalizing toward demand. Supply is compounding. A 7 to 8-year-old, 4-cabin, ex-charter Lagoon 42, valued at approximately €300,000 18 months ago, now sells for under €250,000, and now the market price is lower. The guide recommending this boat today is recommending into a market that has structurally reversed, at prices the market no longer supports. The buyer who follows that recommendation and pays current asking prices is purchasing the premium the guide created and not the value the market has moved to reflect. The seventh boat is the Westsail 32. The Westsail is different from the other 6. It is a genuinely capable offshore design. Approximately 830 were built between 1971 and 1980. The heavily constructed double-ender has completed ocean passages and circumnavigations, and its offshore pedigree is earned rather than marketed. The guides are not wrong to name it. They are wrong to name it without stating that every Westsail 32 on the used market today is between 45 and 55 years old. Every system aboard has exceeded its designed service life. A properly prepared example requires a refit budget the guides never disclose alongside their recommendation. The buyer of the Catalina 42 in Fort Lauderdale and the buyer who followed a separate guide to a Lagoon 42 listed at a Caribbean brokerage made the same journey by different routes. One spent $92,000 and encountered $30,000 in year 1 structural remediation that the survey failed to catch and the insurance refused to cover. This was a failed inspection. The other spent $210,000 on a 4-cabin ex-charter catamaran now valued at $155,000. That was an EX charter bargain turned liability. Both watched the same category of content, made decisions the guides told them were thoroughly researched, and arrived at positions the guides had never warned them about. A $100,000 production sailboat costs $8,000 per year in maintenance at the industry's own 10% benchmark, $30,000 in year 1 structural discoveries, the wet balsa, the saturated chainplate beds, the chainplate replacements themselves, $1,500 annually in insurance, $4,500 per year in marina access, $12,000 in standing rigging replacement at the 5-year mark, and $8,000 in engine service. Focus on maintenance. The 5-year total outlay on a guide recommended $100,000 sailboat runs to $182,000. The guide told you $100,000. The ledger wrote $182,000. The gap between those two numbers is not a market anomaly or a string of bad luck. The gap is a disclosure failure, systematic, genre-wide, and repeating across every best sailboat video published in the past 15 years. 3 actions. Specific. Executable before any offer is signed. First, commission a pre-purchase survey from a surveyor certified by the Society of Accredited Marine Surveyors or credentialed through the American Boat and Yacht Council, not the one the broker recommends. Prioritize a qualified surveyor. Require a haul-out. Moisture meter readings on deck and hull are non-negotiable, specifically around chain plates, the mast step, and every stanchion base that penetrates the deck. Make this non-negotiable. The moisture meter is the only instrument that reveals saturated balsa core before the contract is signed. It is the only early warning. Second, run the 10% calculation before any offer. Take the purchase price, add 10% per year across 5 years, add $30,000 in year 1 structural unknowns, add marina fees and insurance, and if that total is a number you cannot carry without financial distress, the boat is not a boat you can afford, regardless of what any guide said about the purchase price. Use the 10% rule. Third, ask one question of any guide channel before trusting its recommendations. Have they ever filmed a haul-out on one of the boats they name? A single moisture meter reading, a keel bolt pull, a chain plate removal, a surveyor's written findings. If none of those appear in the channel's library, the channel has never had a surveyor-informed view of what it recommends. The guide ecosystem is not malicious. It is incentivized to produce content that performs, and a drone shot over turquoise water performs better than a moisture meter reading of 38% on a saturated balsa deck core. Remember the drone shot. The marine industry's own benchmark puts the real 5-year cost of a $100,000 sailboat at $182,000. The guide showed you the drone shot. The surveyor shows you the moisture meter. In a market built on lifestyle imagery and subscription algorithms, the only protection available to the buyer is the question the guide never thought to ask, and the qualified professional the guide never thought to hire. The ledger does not lie. What the guide never showed you was anyone consulting one.